Nadia Irakote, congratulations. You gave the correct answers to game number 297. The questions with the answers were.
First question. Which two African capitals should soon be connected by a bridge? Answer. Brazzaville and Kinshasa. Second question. Which struggling sector does Cameroon want to relaunch? Answer. Coffee.
That's the end of Business Africa. Thank you for watching. You can see the show again on our website, www.business-africa.net. I'm Umaru Bakim, and hope with the same pleasure for a new edition of Initiative Africa. Have an excellent week. Bye-bye.
Deception, disbelief, love, and dismay. Trust in man is deadly. Your close friend, your worst enemy. The Burning Spear. Burning Spear, a story of multi-identity, suspense-filled, educative, and entertaining. The Burning Spear. Come on, let's go.
Nonsense nowhere. It's just a bunch of prejudices about the different communities, but nothing substantial about the cause of the conflict.
It is becoming expensive to have you there.
If it was you that lost your brother, would you do it?
Family time. A thorn in the flesh.
To be seeing my daughter every day is not small money.
The daughter, when he's concerned, my pocket is never afraid. Oh, well, I will do everything. And then I tell
yeah, I don't like anything that has to do with jazz.
Come. You be like say hungry, never why are you rich, Abby?
You know nothing about football, so there is no point asking. Organize your cup and not your body. This one not the couple.
Ah! Oh, well, see, baby, it's not my money.
Three nurses and a doctor. Find out what matters in Clinic Matters.
And I wonder what someone like you is doing in such a noble profession where so much courtesy is required. Can you attend to this woman?
Because the nurse who has the pilot just gone in to prepare to check her temperature. He's not planning to tell his wife until the other lady delivers. It's not heartless.
Is this our business if your husband impregnates another woman?
The only problem I have is with people making silly and great mistakes, especially in marriage. You are a nurse and not a marriage counselor.
The yellow man that doesn't like sharing some of my personal effects with anybody.
Women are not regarded as personal effects.
Blessing time is over.
Any of progress.
If my husband comes and say, make I don't work, I go quickly fine.
Yeah?
Budgeting. Questions such as, do we need an NMP in the first place, must be asked. My view, we don't.
He is the field officer. He has the responsibility to ensure all operations regarding
arrest and all that is conducted in the usual manner.
Engage in emergent topical issues.
IT, steering the African experience. Welcome to Focus Nigeria, reaching you on Africa Independent Television, AIT. I'm Okiri Agbonsu Remy, standing in for Gbenga Aruleba, who had to proceed on an official trip after yesterday's show. Now, the sitting of the Nigeria's House of Representatives Committee probing the crash of the capital market continued on Wednesday. The Director General of the Securities and Exchange Commission, Aruma Ote, who was absent on Tuesday, showed up at Wednesday's sitting. Her absence had stirred up anger amongst members of the committee. Also, her perceived autocratic tendencies, which had previously manifested in the course of the proceedings, was laid bare yesterday following testimonies of SEC commissioners present at Wednesday's proceedings. Anyway, Ote tried to play all of it down by formally tendering unreserved apology to the House committee members.
In the letter that I had written, we had a Nigerian Economic Management Team meeting yesterday, and as I also indicated during our session on Monday, we had also had another meeting, which was a retreat on the power sector, all of which are important for the capital markets. And usually the procedure is that I should have, if I wasn't going to be able to attend, indicated in writing to the office of the president as to the fact that I would not be able to attend. But because of the session on the Monday, I didn't have the opportunity to do so. So I really apologize to you, to the committee, and to the House of Reps, and ask for your forgiveness.
So we complement each other. So that is why we as Nigerians must encourage, we should not undermine any structure. Legislature should not look down upon the executive should not look down upon the legislature, vice versa. That's all. So we have no ill feelings at all. We have no any intention of anything other than ensuring that our institutions, exist.
On the allegations by the former Director General of the Nigerian Stock Exchange, Ndi Okereke-Onyuke, that SEC charged 0.3% on every transaction at the stock exchange, Aruma said it was not abnormal since the charge was merely an administrative fee. But Ndi Okereke-Onyuke, in her presentation before the committee on Tuesday, said the fee is illegal as it is not supported by law, nor is the money remitted to the Federation account. So, how come it has been the practice all this while, you want to ask? Little drops of water is said to make an ocean. Could it be that these alleged illegal collections contributed to the collapse of the stock market? Ote, in her submission on Monday, said the market succumbed to a combination of ailments: sensational lifestyle, financial recklessness, misappropriation, misrepresentation, and questionable transactions, and allegations directed at the former NSC DG, that is Ndi Okereke-Onyuke. But it is important that one does not lose sight of the issues that led to the meltdown of the stock exchange. And so, we shall be beaming the searchlight on why the capital market collapsed, taking into account the revelations from the ongoing probe by the House committee. But before we go into the discussions proper, a quick look at some happenings in the polity. A bill to further amend the provisions of the 1999 Constitution so as to give state houses of assembly financial autonomy has passed second reading at the Nigeria's House of Representatives. The federal lawmakers say the amendment will enhance proper legislative oversight and good governance at the state level. Recall that the House in the 6th Assembly started the process but could not complete it. So the present crop of legislators are revisiting the issue. And we'll so quickly tell you that they had the opportunity, the State's Assembly had the opportunity to have had it on a roller coaster during the last amendment of the Constitution in the 6th Assembly. Just one state, Katsina State, refused to give it to it. They had 23 states, but the 24th state, Katsina, which had already assented to that portion of the amendment, declined and withdrew it. And so the State's Assembly lost out in the bid to get autonomy. It was said that the governors came together and quickly used Katsina State to rescue the power back to the governors. The governors don't want the State's Assembly to be autonomous so that they have their monies to spend. So the federal legislators are going back again now to assist the State's Assembly to get back that power by this new amendment move in the House of Representatives. And over to Ikenne in Ogun State, where prominent Nigerians gathered on Wednesday to commemorate the 25th year anniversary of the demise of former opposition leader and First Republic politician Chief Obafemi Awolowo. In his sermon at the Remembrance Thanksgiving service, the Anglican Bishop of Lagos West, Peter Adebi, told Nigerian leaders to put away their selfish differences and find a common ground to move the country forward.
We have compromised our integrity. We have lost the aura that makes other people regard us as a reliable people, a people to be reckoned with. The population of the Yoruba, I am told, is over 44 million people in Nigeria. This probably shows that the Yoruba is the single largest ethnic group in Nigeria. The Yoruba nation is indeed larger than some other countries in West Africa put together. Why have we now become so weak, incoherent, and divided as a people? To the majority of the Yoruba nation, the main reason for this settlement is that we have ceased to seek the good of our nation, but are more concerned with the politics of the stomach of individuals.
Well, speaking also at the occasion, Governor of Ogun State, Ibikule Amosun, said Nigerians should not only celebrate Awolowo, but be disciples of his beliefs.
When Awolowo was alive, these are all he fought for. These are all his ideals. Indeed, I know that we cannot celebrate Baba enough. Even in death, we still cannot celebrate him enough. But I think what we should all do, like I said in my speech, is that we should not just celebrate Awolowo by just lip service. We should be a true disciple of Awolowo. Baba said it. When other people are carousing with the men of easy virtues, Baba is there burning the midnight oil. And that is what we seek to do. That is what all of us are doing. That is the only thing that can continue the greatness of Baba.
I wonder if you watched that entire program yesterday on Africa Independent Television. Of course, what you could see underlining every speech is what the problem with Nigeria is. Nigerians, even at the very senior age, elder statesmen, political leaders, still putting that underlining fears that Nigeria must work together. We must sit down and probably work our unity. We have not really gotten it. And that is what you could get from the Kenneth talks yesterday. Even the reverend gentleman warned that the Yorubas should not be caught napping in the event that there's a reason for the Yorubas to belong to a country of their own. That speaks volume. Well, that is the brief outlook of the polity, what we saw in the last 24 hours. Let's now get on with the discussion on the day, which is on the stock market. And we just ask you to stay. After this break, we'll come back with the discussions.
afford to govern out of anger or yield to the politics of the moment.
Thanks for staying with us on Africa Independent Television. We stay on Focus Nigeria, and the issue on hand is also the issue on the table with Nigerians. That is the stock exchange. At some point in Nigeria, many people ran to the banks to take monies to buy stocks. I know that there are so many Nigerians who took so much money from as little as 500,000 to 1 million naira, 2 million naira, 5 million naira to go to the market. The Nigerian stocks were so attractive that foreigners were coming in to put their money into our stocks, and so there was a boom. At some point, it was said to be the second fastest growing stock in the world, and that resulted in a lot of patronage. But then the bank, and it went down. That is what the House of Representatives is presently putting their fingers into to find out what indeed happened and how can it be prevented in future. Now, we have guests in the House who will join us to review what is happening in the House of Representatives, take a closer look at what has happened in the stock exchange, and then look at the way forward for Nigerians. And if you are one of those who is interested in stocks, and you are also one who is looking for interest in that area, then you definitely find the discussion useful. Elder David Ogu is a former commissioner, the Security and Exchange Commission. He is also a former executive director of the Nigerian Social Insurance Trust Fund and the president West and Central Africa Association of Aquaculture. Thank you very much for joining us, Elder.
Thank you, sir.
And we also have joining us Ezewan Wangu. He is a former Vice President, Transparency Nigeria. Thank you for joining us on the program.
Thank you.
This is all about transparency. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Let's begin with the foundation.
Okay.
What was the beginning of stock exchange in Nigeria? I know that our elders, you ask, I mean, people who are above 60, 70, they tell you how they invested little money from their salaries into some stocks, and some of them actually they were depending on the dividends to add up to their retirement, and so there was a lot of encouragement for people to really go into what is the story? What is the success story of the Nigerian stock exchange itself?
Okay, we start from 1962, before the Capital Issues Commission was created subsequently. We had manual trading, which is there's a call-over system, where the prices are related to, before you move prices in the market, you must give us the fundamentals. You will have to rationalize it with a call-over chairman. That is not quite efficient.
It's cumbersome.
It's not that it's cumbersome. It is slow. It is subject to manipulations and things like that. And then, of course, when we automated, that doesn't mean that we are going to abandon control to the machine. That is also subject to manipulation in terms of pricing, because the pricing is not to be fixed by human beings, right? So the problem in the Nigerian capital market was actually the pricing system. From when the IPO is priced, okay, and prior to the IPO pricing, in the recent experience, you find out that the issuers try to inflate the prices by moving the prices up so they will get a better deal from the market. This is wrong. Okay? But even when we dictate that prices are moving that far, what we would have done, I was part of the system, what we would have done is to reduce the allowable increase in prices Because with the 5% allowable increase in prices per day, you find that in 20 days, a company can have a 100% increase.
Yeah.
So we should be thinking about 1/16%, which will take about 1,400 or 500 days to achieve 100%. If you talk about 8% allowable increase, you'll be talking about 800 days. Okay? Which we discourage speculation. Because for the fundamentals of a company, it doesn't take 20 days for you to double your prices. So we've got to look into that. But you see, the market was moving so fast that the regulators are not able to adjust quickly, especially if you have a leadership, past leadership, that are not passionate about the market. You know, somebody might have his own philosophy in the market and come in and say, "Oh, I leave the market to itself."
Yeah.
So, you know, when I was the commissioner of operation, I said, no. I told my DG Musa Afaki, you can't leave the market like this. If you leave the market like that, what you're going to have is a catastrophic adjustment in prices.
Now, let me remain with you. Now, what were those factors that made the Nigerian capital market to have such an attraction? Was it as a result of the unseen manipulations that made it appear to be so good and attractive?
No, it's not that. You know, the stock prices are as a result of demand supply. The regulators will have to moderate, are you with me, so that we don't drive the demand supply to an extreme situation. Anything that is driven to an extreme situation will eventually collapse. So we knew in 2007, late 2007, that there's going to be a catastrophic adjustment.
Because
the prices, the troughs, the pricing system and the market moves like a wave. Okay? If you have very huge wave, a turbulence, it means in the sea.
Yes,
if you have a turbulence. So what you try to do as a regulator is to smoothen the wave a little bit, so you don't have turbulence, so that it increases. So you can do that by adjusting and making sure that the stockbrokers and everybody who is trading understand.
From your own experience,
yes.
Because you were an insider, you knew what was happening.
Yes.
I also understand that the so-called demand and supply we are talking about can also be manipulated.
Yes.
Was it the manipulation in the system, the demand and supply, the attraction to make the stock very attractive and good that caused this very artificial turbulence that we saw, that gave the impression that the stock was a bride that could be taken in?
You know, yes, there were some manipulation in terms of issuers trying to influence the prices before they issue their stocks so they can get a higher price. That is wrong. Okay? But sometimes it's very difficult for you to find out. Right? But then, of course, the people who evaluate the companies, right? At one particular point in time, if the market is giving you prices, are you with me?
Yes.
Then you've got to do evaluation, asset evaluation and performance
to find out
whether it's real, whether you're going to allow that. And if you dictate that there have been a manipulation on prices, you can freeze the prices or make sure that the prices don't increase beyond 1/16 of a percent, so as to hold on until there's a stability in that particular company, until you exhaust that increase, that artificial increase, through performance. You cannot have increase in prices without performance, which is what happened in Nigeria. But you can also say that there was a lot of work done by Ministry of Commerce, Securities and Exchange Commission, and Stock Exchange to bring in investors.
Yes.
So when investors, the investors, the hedge fund poured into Nigeria, and therefore the hedge funds are just interested in marginal increases. They are very sophisticated. When they bring in their money, if they have 2% increase, they are out. But the Nigerians are not as sophisticated as the hedge funds.
There are those who put their money and even travel.
Exactly, forget about it. And it's not like that. And they all believe that there's going to always be an increase in prices. But it's not so. So it's a lesson. You know, in a country, as a country is moving, there are lessons that you learn. Our fear is that the current lessons we've learned in the capital market, we've got to use it positively, not use it to fight ourselves. That's what we're trying to.
There's some fight going on. And let's go to now the probe that is going on is quite revealing. We are hearing a lot of testimonies. How do you react to what you are hearing from the House of Representatives ad hoc committee probe?
Well, I think is a continuing conversation because we've been on this I think sometime last month. So the conversation is continuing. The same things that we raised in those times are still playing out. And what are those things? When you have a regulator, shirk responsibility. Once a regulator shirks responsibility, even if you take from the operators take advantage. So if you even take from what Elder has just said, you will simply draw the conclusion that somebody who had a responsibility to monitor, mitigate the market, shirked that responsibility. And what are we seeing now? We are seeing buck passing, hoisting regime of excuses, and trade blames. But that in itself, there's somebody who has a challenge now. The person who has a challenge is that man who the regulator had the responsibility to even educate. Because we also forget that this regulator has a business to protect both the investor and the operator. And so he had a business to say to give early warning signals to the investor and say, look, there are challenges. These challenges are becoming obvious. In the next 1 or 2, 3 years, we're going to have these kind of challenges. And that didn't happen. So what are you seeing now? You are seeing the drama. Part of the drama is to continue to confuse the situation and make it look like, look, we did our job, these guys didn't do their job. But what you see now is that the political environment under which all of this happened also helped because there's a bigger regulator.
Yes.
That bigger regulator also shirks responsibility. And that bigger regulator is the government, who exists for the welfare interest of the people, of the citizens.
Of course, we also know that this bigger regulator, they are constituted by politicians who themselves were operators.
That's what I'm saying. So for you to have investor confidence, you need to have the right political environment. Apart from, and then more importantly now, we also see the exaltation of personalities rather than the institution. You don't strengthen, instead of strengthening the institution, we see players, individual players being raised to personality cults. Oh, there is one Arumote who was headhunted from somewhere. There is a Professor Diokereke who. That is the challenge that we have. Except we have institutions that are strong. Except we have institutions that can respond to the challenges of the market. Then we'll continue to be in the kind of.
Let me come home because it's becoming a distraction. Okay. The original intention, the intent of the House of Representatives ad hoc probe was to look at what happened so that we don't go into the pitfall of having a crash, so that we can begin to rebuild the confidence of the people and the public on the market. Okay. Now there's a distraction as we are leaving the real ball now. Is it not possible for us to move away from the cosmetic and look at how to get to the roots of the problem?
Okay, that's why we are here. The problem we had was what is called regulatory arbitrage. There are too many regulators. At a particular point in time when we were doing the banking consolidation, the current Minister of Finance, we were served under him in the first time.
Yes.
He asked, look, how are you going to regulate this huge, He threw up something about Financial Services Authority. Okay? Financial Services Authority is what we need now to give a lot more power to SEC. Okay? But it's not going to be the way SEC is structured now. We've got to remove SEC because SEC is a dysfunctional
commercial agency.
Yes, agency now. We've got to give them a lot more power by reorganizing SEC into what is called Financial Services Authority. So we can bring in all the regulations, all the regulators that SEC cannot control now, right? Into one room under financial, because look, we have a market capitalization at one time of 15 trillion, which is about 4 or 5 times of our GDP. So you must have an authority powerful enough. Apparently, we have the people who can do the job. The current Director General of SEC can do the job, okay? But he has to have managing directors of directorates who are just as powerful. But we have to force them to have what is called meeting twice in a month to discuss the market, and the memos must go to the Minister of Finance and, if possible, to the National Assembly. Because the oversight function of the National Assembly will be based on those meetings that are statutory meetings that they must have. It's not going to be one single powerful person. No, it's an institution. Which means if they make my colleague there the managing director of one of the directorates at SEC, it's a question of FSA, Financial Services Authority, swallowing the current SEC and swallowing a couple of regulators from Central Bank, from DMO, from insurance, PENCOM, and bringing them under the same roof, and then having like 4 or 5 managing directors of directorates who are just very powerful.
Is this a prototype? Is it something that we can? Is it something that we can see happen in other times?
Yes. I have gone to FSA in the United Kingdom. It's because of the problem they have, where, for instance, you start having OTE came into the market and saw a huge amount of losses to Nigerians, and he was passionate about solving the problem. But he doesn't have the instrument to solve the problem. He doesn't have enough power. So we need to have a financial services authority that's a one-stop gap. There's no excuse. The memos of their meetings will go to the Ministry of Finance, will go to National Assembly, right? And those memos can be queried so that you can trace, because where the problem, you can, for instance, you go and ask for the memos, because you're a Nigerian, the freedom of information, and see where you have more information, and see where your money is going, and see what the people who you have put in there, right, what they are doing. So we need a very powerful, like my colleague said, we need a very powerful institution. And we started working on it. That after the consolidation, Financial Services Authority will have taken on the regulation. And if we don't do that, Nigerians are not going to come back to the market. Because the current way in which SEC is constituted, right, cannot solve the Nigerian. That is the frustration that you see with the commissioners, right, and the Director General. There's simply a lot of frustration there because they see Central Bank, a department of Central Bank, that is approving credit for stockbrokers, and there's nothing they can do about it.
No. You want to intervene?
Yeah, also, I think we need to clearly also engage the kind of people who run these institutions. You don't shack it. You don't run from that. The National Assembly is looking at, there are things that are legal, but they may not be ethical.
Yes, yeah.
All right? If you have somebody who does not have the ethical background, composition to run such sensitive institutions,
then you just forget about it.
Then you have a crisis. So I don't, what I'm simply trying to say is that I don't agree that we are chasing shadows. It's a probe. It's a whole gamut of intervention, interrogation,
yes,
looking
yes.
at. So you need to look at these people. Somebody drove SEC. Somebody drove the stock exchange,
yes,
to the point where it came to a near collapse.
Yes.
Who was responsible? If you're a good student of leadership, you want to be able to look at the managerial competence, the ethical
content
and integrity quotient of these persons who run those things. And what is coming out, both from the regulator and from the operator, is that one, there is nothing wrong in having a meal with 83,000 naira. Is legal,
yeah,
but is it ethical? In the face of the kind of challenge that we're facing, is it ethical for you to go to
the Hilton?
Somebody needs to.
Yeah.
So
that you have the right to spend all the money.
It's legal. No, I'm coming, sir. It's legal, but is it ethical? Those are some of the things that are being thrown up.
You know, I will remain with you. I will remain with you. The reason I'm asking the question of whether we are not moving away from the ball is the kind of attention. You read the media, you know what is happening. The original intention, I believe, is to avoid the pitfalls of the last crash and find out how we probably entered, like what you were saying, how we entered that kind of room, boxed ourselves into a corner, and got the crash that has made everybody to now begin to look at the issue.
Austin, you see, we need to understand that this is a probe, and this is where I'm staying. I'm not the technicalities of it. Elder will x-ray all of that. But where I'm staying is, does the Parliament have the constitutional duty to make this?
Of course they do.
And they are making that inquiry. And the journalists the media will take what is of interest
to them.
But the gamut of the interrogation is in depth. If, for instance, of course we thrive on a lot of sensationalism. What makes news is, oh, somebody had 83,000 too. But that will not be the only thing that happened on the day. And more serious issues will be left for very serious people. So I am simply saying that let's not also box ourselves to corner to begin to look at those sensational issues. Yes. The challenge is that what the National Assembly is looking at is the people who drove these processes lack the moral and ethical, foundation to be saddled with the kind of responsibility that they have. If you bought
wristwatch for 1 million naira,
it doesn't.
It doesn't make any.
It shows that you do not even have the discipline. In the face of the challenges that people are facing, you can excuse it and say, oh, we gave it to the people who are retiring and all of that. But that in itself raises some questions about your ability to understand that you are facing very critical challenges. Yes, but more importantly, if you have a stock market where you are also not dealing with whether your industries are collapsing, whether these loans, whether medium or long term, I think that's what you do in the stock market. You give out funds for people to in a long run. So you also find out that you have portfolio investors, people who just carry briefcases,
enter the room and
get this money because the environment, the enabling condition in which a capital market, whether secondary or primary as people call it, thrives, does not exist. So we need to look at the whole gamut of the situation that has brought about that collapse and see whether if we rejig, the collapse of industries, if we rejig how banks themselves, ethical issues in our banking system, where you just, these marginal loans that they are talking about, that Ndi Okereke was talking about. Yes, there are challenges. She may have challenges in the way she ran the stock exchange. But we must also look at ethical issues in the bank.
Yeah, both during her tenure and the tenure of Now, let's take a look at the role of SEC in the nationalization of banks. Because we're taking a look at you gave an insight into how the boardroom decisions that are taken at boardrooms to go to the stock, to how largely SEC gives this advice. The NSC also provide their own input into the general. We have a situation where the banks. I wouldn't know if I don't know the history of banks around the world. That banks in Nigeria where the growth rate was so much that people said, look, this is artificial. It was obvious to the blind person. Was it not obvious to those who were regulating?
Well, you know the financial institutions are linked up globally. We have a global village. So the action that the government took, it cannot be viewed as nationalization. If you come to rescue somebody, that doesn't mean you came to take over his house. So I was surprised when they're talking about nationalization. If you have to nationalize the house,
it will be a complete takeover.
Yeah, the house, which is the National Assembly, will have to pass a law. And the government must be willing to take over those companies. The government is not willing. The government is the government only wanted to save depositors' funds, and they've created. By the way, we're going to have to talk about AMCOM. But what the hearing of the committee, National Assembly Committee, was very good. It was a very good hearing. I was very proud that we're digging into a variety of issues to be able to show Nigerians, are you with me? Yeah, what is happening. But then, after the hearing, what do we do with it? That's exactly what we are talking about. How do we use it? The problems we've had and the hearing now, how do we use it to structure a new system that is sustainable? Are you with me? And then we can use our current experience that we had. Are you? Because you saw that those who are responsible for this thing are fighting because they really feel that they should do something. But I must advise them that instead of fighting each other, they should all get together
to walk away
out because they have tremendous. If you look at Ndi Okereke, people like Daisy, Udora, Ote, and all these people who are in charge, and some of us can come and help them. If you see the number of years they have, They have more than 200 years cumulative experience. So we must forget our personal affairs. That's why when you mix up somebody's personal issues, that are extremely personal issues, with probe for the Nigerians, we have to separate it. If we want to query them for how they utilize funds, let us separate it. If we want to talk about the market, so that Nigerians can see that we are serving them.
Of course, they must all go together, because the moral question is always
they should go together.
They always go together.
They should go together, but we have to make sure that we have a dividing line,
so that we know what we are doing.
So that we know where we're going.
Now, let me come to him. How can we carry on with this examination that is throwing up a lot of dust? We, like I said, or like I suggested, they must all go together. We must not overlook the moral questions against the background of the legal questions that we should ask. But how do we carry on with this probe without causing panic in the market?
Now, the probe is an examination of people's actions and inactions. It restores confidence. The fact that there is somebody who can interrogate, because what the challenge really is impunity, where nobody questions. And let me tell you the truth, people had dodged this probe. There were activities at different levels to make sure that this probe doesn't happen. The investor is confident now that there is somebody who can
who is
asking questions, and then you are better educated and informed as well. It's very important. So, and then my worry is for us to also begin to determine how these questions are asked. We continually want to. It's like going to court. You come to court. The lawyer is asking you, what did you take this morning? Yes, your lawyer can say objection, but the lawyer who is asking that question perhaps wants to know what is it that what stimulates your actions. Yeah. And so the National Assembly, and I believe that they are competent. And my whole experience is that they must not be ridiculed by institutions that they have responsibility to oversight and question. Because once you do that, then you put them in a situation in which they will not ask the necessary questions for fear of not being accused of So coming to what you are saying, what is those things that brought us to where we are? Insider dealings. It has to do with professional ethics. Now, if you also look at that probe, you also see the question of confidentiality. And I think Elder knows that what keeps this market going is confidentiality. Yeah. But what do you get? You see that because of these bickerings, these internal bickerings, whether at the regulator end or at the operator end, the documents, sensitive documents,
are made public.
Brought into the public domain. Issues, internal memos of organizations are brought into. But who benefits from this quarrel? The Nigerian person, the ordinary Nigerian is going to benefit. The investor is benefiting. To know that, if this didn't come out, we would not know that people will sit in their offices and use 83,000 naira to go and have a meal.
Or buy a wristwatch for 1 million.
For 1 million naira. We wouldn't know. So it is this probe that is helping us to say, now when I'm investing and I see that there is a shake, I will simply run to professionals and say, there's something I'm seeing. Does this reflect? And then the eyes of the people are
let's come to sustaining our gaze on the ball and making sure that we don't derail. And that is, how do we make sure that we do not go back to where we were before? Yeah.
Now, what has happened is that the institutions we have structural problems. Okay, they have structural problems. We've dictated it by this probe. So we've got to bring in a new, like my colleague said, a new powerful institution. And make sure that those people who are going to man it are properly interviewed, not politics. You understand? Professionals. But no one is good. The Bible said that no one is good. It's when you create balance in an institution that people will work like an institution. For instance, we are advocating that there's what is called regulatory arbitrage, which means that somebody can go and collect money knowing fully well that it's not the primary function of SEC to look into your lending and borrowing and things like that. So we're saying a department of central bank will come into Financial Services Authority, but we're going to have very powerful directorate leaders And we're going to have statutory meetings.
To be semi-autonomous to be able to take decisions and questions.
Yes, there will be a director general above them, but the director general will not be able to marginalize them because they have legal functions. For instance, we have got to force them to have what is called statutory meetings, and those statutory meetings and the memo must be sent to the minister and to the National Assembly. Because how can National Assembly have an oversight function on these agencies when they don't have information? They must have information. So we have to build an institution that does not have respect, institution that is made up of laws, not human beings. You see, the fundamental problems in the country is that we have institutions that are made up of human beings. No, we've got to build institutions that are made up of laws and regulations. So if we have a new FSA, Financial Services Authority, because we are the most powerful country in West Africa, we must have a strong financial institution. Because other countries in West Africa are going to follow us. We have to be looking 50 years in advance. Yes. So we must have that. And Nigerians demand that something is done. They are not going to come back to the market with the current structure of SEC. So we want that at this meeting, at least the few people who are listening to us, we take something back to the National Assembly.
I actually wanted to ask you, where is the confidence of the public as we speak now?
They don't have any confidence because the structure they see in television in these few days, they demand something else. They demand a strong institution, a strong balance in the management of the institution. You've got to force people to work together. You know, you come from various parts of the country, and we have our various idiosyncrasies, how we respond because of our culture. Yeah. But we must focus on things that put us together. When you see having a meeting with you, and you don't really respond the way you respond because of your cultural background, I must follow the law so that we cannot come to a consensus. We must start building consensus. And Nigerians demand that they are not going to bring in their money with the current structure in the market. We must have a powerful organization, well-structured, and then sell it to Nigerians. We are not going to be selling stocks and bonds to Nigerians, are you with me? Yeah. And think they're going to bring their money back. But fundamentally, our market is in this equilibrium. Because the equity that is supposed to be smaller than the bond, it's like we have an equity market.
Let me come to him and ask him his own core area, transparency. Yes. I mean, where do we really get the Nigerian, the one he's talking about now, the ordinary Nigerian, the man who has the little money to invest? Where does he rely on understanding what is going on and knowing what is going on with regard to transparency? Are we running our agencies? Are we running the capital market? Have we run it in such a transparent manner?
I think no, we haven't. Transparency is predicated on law and order. Let's in systems everywhere in the world there are corrupt people. There are people who are ethically challenged, and when people are ethically challenged, they behave in a manner that wants to, sabotage systems. But once you have law and order, and those laws are implemented, whether you're ethically challenged, you know the consequence.
Yes, because the laws are there.
Because the laws are there. So what we need to do is to strengthen our laws, strengthen our institutions, to be able to give these persons we are talking about, the investor, confidence and all. But I must also add that the whole question about our recruitment process for leadership needs to be interrogated. This idea of headhunting people, somebody sits down somewhere, manipulates the system from where he is, and you now claim that so when it comes, they come with this conceitedness that everybody that they are meeting in the place
don't know
anything, and that is what is happening in fact. The woman is coming with this, I am ADB treasurer.
Maybe that's why
she's not the only one who does that. We also have the current coordinator of the economy and all of that, who we claimed we needed from the World Bank. Yes, we brought her from the World Bank, and they come with this conceitedness that they are the be it and know it of the system in which they operate. They don't want to work with people who they meet. And let me tell you, to be honest, there are people even within those institutions who have better qualifications, who have composite experience to deal with those issues, but they are not fortunate to be products of cronyism. Because you beg somebody, you know that one, and that person brings you to a place. So we need to interrogate our recruitment process and subject our recruitment process to interviews, advertise this kind of jobs. He's talking about restructuring that place. The leadership of these people, if they have shame, and I like what the former Senate President said, that the challenge we have now is that we have leaders who have no shame. They are not ashamed at all. If they have shame and have put us in the kind of quandary that we have in the capital market,
they should be apologizing. Let me just take the last from you because we must go now. Let me just take the last from you.
Yes.
And we should just be looking at how to better what we already have.
Yes, we must utilize this opportunity with this spectacular performance of the National Assembly and, of course, the revelation that we have in the capital market. We must seize it, right? Not go back to business as usual. That's why I'm insisting that there has to be a complete restructuring. And we have started this before by training people and looking at how we can strengthen SEC, okay? And create a situation where SEC is an institution of law, not an institution of persons.
Who just sit down and...
exactly. And then we've got to force them by statutes to perform certain functions. And when we appoint somebody, give the person a position, we must allow the person to perform that position, or if he doesn't perform, we fire him. Benchmark. Do you understand? So this is what we must do. And it is the Nigerians must have a feeling that something has come out of this. And our recommendation is Financial Services Authority.
Well, there you have said that setting benchmarks for those who are appointed, the leadership recruitment process. How do we get those who we give responsibility? Do we just headhunt them after they have caused problems? They manipulate the button and we say, look, and they come up, even themselves, saying we can solve it, and we ask them to come and solve it. And how do we make sure that what we are getting from the National Assembly is not just one of those things we just get from probes and from examinations and nothing goes out of it? How do we restore the confidence of the investor, those ones that have been battered now, who will say that they will never touch anything that comes with the capital market? How do we get them back to the market? Some of the issues we have examined, and I want to thank Elder David Ogu for joining us, former Commissioner of the Security and Exchange Commission and the former Executive Director of the Nigerian Social Insurance Trust Fund. He's also the President, West and Central Africa Association of Aquaculture. Thank you for joining us on the program, Elder.
Thank you.
And we're also joined by Ezewa Wangu. I don't know if he's a chief yet.
No.
But he's a former Vice President, Transparency Nigeria. Thank you so much for joining us on the program. And for you out there, we want to thank you for investing your time with us on Focus Nigeria. Tomorrow we'll be back, and when we come back, we have other topical issues in the polity to examine. And we trust you'll join us again. Okiri Agbosoremi is my name. Thanks for staying with us.
Africa. Enjoy Africa's compelling, exciting, and breathtaking experience with Kakaki, the African voice.
Now listen. The law is now beyond argument that the effect of a nullification of a thing, not necessarily an election, the effect of nullification of a thing is to completely wipe out, obliterate, remove, undo, erase, or render it ineffective.
Why must Nigerians pay
decline. That has been presented by Nikaba.
The Bisi Olakilo Show, BOS International.
I think the congregation tonight should be a period for celebration of the incoming, the end of the new year, the beginning of the new year, but a period also for sober reflection.
We have signed into law several legislations whose implementation will help us provide the service delivery that you expect of us and raise the standard of life.
The Bisi Olakilo Show, BOS International.
I'll give you all the finest things in life. You are the angel of my life, the love of my life. I love my baby, that's my baby. I will treat my baby right.
Words all over the world have made the Bisi Olakilo Show, BOS International, the first choice on their TV dials every week. The Bisi Olakilo Show, BOS International.
Time out with TA. It's also a party.
Look, see, I know they got no longer, so I don't want friendship way longer. With me today, tomorrow I'll be stronger.
Time out with TA. It's the variety comedy show everyone is talking about. Catch your favorite celebrities on Wine with TA. It's refreshing. Hilarious.
Say with me, dear woman, cause you love me, I will be your...
Time out with TA.
The new month of a new year usually comes with a lot of challenges for so many people. Nigerians are not left behind.
Get the most current updates and business round the globe on The Money Show.
If you look at Nigeria and our people, a lot of people actually plan for the year from January up to December.
by his word. He said, "Let there be light," and the world was illuminated. He spoke through his prophets. Believe the word of God, and ye shall be established. Believe his prophets, and you shall prosper. We still have the prophets. Here comes another moment of prophetic declarations, the word from the divine throne. Destiny encounter. Be blessed as you walk.
It's a beautiful day, a day of glory, in another moment to encounter the Almighty. Welcome to Destiny Encounter. I am Pastor Peter.
We have more in part 1 of Turning Point's exclusive report, Behind the Mask.
So many girls commit suicide in this stage because of their loneliness, their emptiness.
But come rain or shine, you'll find prostitute from Sidewalk.
Hello and welcome to Turning Point.
I don't
welcome to the program. It's the 10th day of May 2012, the 5th month in the year 2012. This is the Money Show. I am Nancy Lu. This is the best place to be between 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. where I will give you clarity on business and financial issues. We bring smart guests and as well smart analysis. Thank you for joining us again this Thursday. Okay, the financial system right now is under so much searchlight. Yesterday we saw what happened at the House of Representatives, precisely the ad hoc committee investigating the near collapse of the Nigerian capital market. It is no longer news that the broad index that attained about 13 trillion naira in March 2008 has come down to what it is right now, 7 trillion naira. But analysts will say that the market has undergone a correction as it is right now. We're seeing a slight recovery, of course, based on the earnings of most companies that are quoted on the Nigerian Stock Exchange, posting impressive results. What happened, or what has been happening in the last few weeks, I would say about 2 to 3 weeks, analysts do believe that this should bring a solution to the near collapse of what we've witnessed on the Nigerian Stock Exchange. We'll continue to watch that situation very closely here on the program. Another thing on the searchlight in the financial system is the apex regulating body of the banks, talking about the Central Bank of Nigeria. I told you, was it last week, that the House of Representatives, an amendment to the CBN Act 2007 has killed the second reading. So much has been talked about cutting the wings of Sanusi Lamido Sanusi, the central bank governor. But on the show, we'll try as much as to look at, should a central bank be independent? All over the world, we see that most central banks are independent. What's happening in Nigeria? Will the Nigerian Central Bank be open to political branches? This I will be looking at on the show today. Would we need the view of politicians to set, does the central bank need the view of politicians to set the interest rates of the country, to also make sure that there's a ban of foreign exchange? These are some of the issues we'll be looking at on today's edition of the program. But let's get started now with our market numbers. The Nigerian Stock Exchange yesterday, as the capital market probe is still on, the Nigerian Stock Exchange broad index that has attained a psychological significance and 2,000 point level. We saw a shedding of some points yesterday, 34 basis points to be precise. The market index finished at 22,533.72. The market cap ended at about 7.18 trillion naira. The volume of shares that was recorded yesterday closed at 408.44 million shares in close to 3,000 transactions. Taking a look at the value of shares traded on Wednesday, 3.31 billion naira. That is the value of the 408.44 million shares traded midweek. Let's take a look at the best performers for Wednesday. Pencom appreciated by a maximum 5% to finish at 1 naira 5 kobo. Dangote flour at 5.46. Talking about Dangote, Aliko Dangote, who is the richest African man. He is to invest about $7.5 billion on mining as well as infrastructure. Okomo, all that will be paying his shareholders a cash dividend of 4 naira, appreciated by close to a maximum 5% on Wednesday to finish at 36.39. PZ Industries 23.20, while Union Bank of Nigeria closed at 4 naira 72 kobo on the floor of the exchange yesterday. Let's take a look at the decliners for Wednesday. GSK at 19 naira, NCL finished at 14.52, UBA at 3 naira 82, Axis Bank 6.51, while First Bank closed at 10.93. Let's take a look at other African bourses that we do monitor on the screen. The Accra bourse has been wilting a very sharp loss today, 2.29%. Yesterday we saw a 1% downside for the Ghana Stock Exchange, but it's still firm at the 1,000-point level, precisely 1,029.45. The Nairobi top 20 companies, that's the NSC 20, because in Nairobi they have two indices, the Nairobi Securities Exchange Top 20 as well as the Nairobi Securities Exchange All Share, but we monitor the top 20. It's down 0.37%, while the South African market was upside by close to 0.4%. Let's take a look at other African markets now. In Mauritius, there are 2 basis points in the red. The Gaborone index in Botswana almost closing marginally flat. Let's take a look at Wall Street now, where Dow Jones Industrial Average posted a 6-day decline as the EU worries linger. We saw what happened over the weekend. Nicolas Sarkozy, the incumbent president of France, losing to the socialist candidate François Hollande, and that has been impacting global markets alike, as well as what's happening in Greece. Wall Street depreciated midweek. Dow Jones Industrial Average 0.75% in the negative territory at 12,835.06. Nasdaq posted a 0.39 loss on Wednesday to close at 2,934.71. S&P 500 1,354.58, down to 0.1%. Okay, let's move over to the European markets open. As we speak right now, these exchanges are trading, and these are the indices for the morning session. The Frankfurt DAX upside by 0.2% at 6,498. The Paris CAC 40 down 0.33% at 3,108.29. London FTSE at about 5,500 points. A level. The Zurich SMI down to 0.1%. Spain's IBEX 35 upside by 2% at this morning. Stocks 50 2,343.24. upside by 0.03%. All in all, we saw European shares opening mixed this Thursday as negative sentiment via the continued Greek political uncertainty continues to weigh on European investors. Let's take a look at Asia. The Nikkei 225 down 0.39%. Yesterday also this market shed some points. The Hang Seng in Hong Kong 0.5% in the red, coming back to the 20,000 point level, 20,227.28, while other Asian indices that have closed, of course, Asian markets that have closed, but these are the numbers. So that's talking about the Kospi index. It's down more than 0.25%. Bombay Sensex, that's in India, at 16,493.93. Sydney SX 200, talking about Australia, the market appreciated by 0.5% today. Let's take a look at other commodities. Of course, on the show, we take you around the markets. Brent crude is trading at $112.92 a barrel, is below $113 after China trade data came out. Light sweet, that's U.S. light sweet, at 96.73, down 8 basis points, while the bullion, which is called gold, or you can call it the yellow metal, it's shedding a lot of points. It has been at 1,600 level for quite a while, but at this Thursday, it's trading at $1,594 an ounce. And this is still far below what gold traded last year, September, at $1,920 an ounce. Let's check out all agricultural commodities: coffee, cocoa, as well as sugar, all doing well this Thursday. Of course, just 6 basis points for coffee, more than 0.5% for sugar, while cocoa is not doing badly either. Let's take a look at Naira rates. What's the Naira exchanging order against other major currencies? Let's start with the super currency, the dollar. The Naira has been depreciating. We've seen the Naira strengthening in the last 2.5 months, yes. But today, the Naira is trading at a parallel market at 159 Naira against the British pound, 260 against the euro, which is the single currency of the 17 member nations. It's trading at 211 Naira, and against the Riyal, the currency used in Saudi Arabia, you'll be exchanging that for 46 Naira. Let's take a look at international currencies. Do we have that? Okay, just about 3 international currencies. The dollar against the euro is trading at 0.15% in the positive territory, doing 129. Against the Japanese yen is doing 2 basis points to the upside at 79.66. Against the Swiss franc, the dollar is down marginally at 0.9283. All right, let's quickly take a break. When we come back, the program continues. Please do stay with us. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back. The theme of the program today, we'll be looking at CBN's independence. This has been brought to fore again. The National Assembly, precisely the House of Reps, is seemingly trying to cut the wings of the central bank governor. The central bank governor right now, Sanusi Lamido Sanusi, is the chairman of the board of the central bank as well as the governor of the central bank. But some analysts are saying that will this action by the National Assembly, is it a future action, or is it just getting at the personality behind the central bank governor, who is Sanusi Lamido himself? But some questions that analysts are asking is that, what would be the implications of for the Naira? For example, I've asked that question. Would you, for example, begin to go to the House to set, you want to set interest rate, okay, what would be the interest rate like? Have we also thought about probably in upcoming elections, the central bank may just be used to bring in more money into the system? But I will not be doing the talking. I interviewed Charles Iyori, Dr. Charles Iyori, who is a principal partner at Dion and Associates, and we looked at the CBN independency question. Can a central bank be totally independent? And is the Nigerian central bank really totally independent? Let's take a look and I'll be right back. Let me refresh your mind that an amendment to the Central Bank Act 2007 passed through the second reading at the Federal House of Representatives, and the amendment is pushing for a bill to prevent the CBN, its governor, and other key officials from spending without appropriation by the National Assembly, in addition to the appointment of a person other than the CBN governor as chairman of the board of the bank. The amendment of the CBN Act, which was signed into law in May 2007 by former President Olusegun Obasanjo, will remove the governor as chairman of the bank's board and subject the bank's expenditure to National Assembly approval. If signed into law, the deputy governors as well as the directors of the bank will all be barred from the board, which will comprise external officials. But the Central Bank of Nigeria has made a statement that its board consists of about 12 members, 5 internal members and 7 external members. Today's edition will be looking at CBN's independence question. Joining me right now to talk about that is Charles Iyori, a principal partner at Dion and Associates. We will be looking at this issue. Welcome to the show, and thank you for joining me on the program this morning.
Thank you, Nancy.
Let's get started. What's your own sense, what's your own view of what I've read out so far, what has been in the news as it concerns the National Assembly trying to amend the CBN Act 2007?
My view basically is that the fact that the National Assembly is trying to get involved in what the central bank is doing is a good thing. The fact that the central bank is trying to say that the money it issues is not creating value in the system is also a good thing. So what you have basically are 2 game changers. You have a central bank governor who says that the purpose of which the institution which began to head wasn't being achieved and decided to make changes is acceptable. The members of the House from whom all this power draws over time, for the past 40 years have been excluded from national arguments and debates under military rule. And so for themselves, they're trying to also to define territory. So as I'm concerned, you got who maybe do not understand each other, who maybe do not understand how, whatever they mean, whatever they do, because if you look at the central bank wants to know what does it mean to the man on the street, to the trader, to the businessman, to all of those people. The House of Assembly also wants to know, because it represents people, what it means to those various groups. And if the purpose for which any of them is set up as an institution is not working, they have a right to question it. Whether you question it appropriately for now, or you're reacting just to a short-term measure or for a long-term position is another matter.
Can the central bank be totally independent? Because that's the question.
There's no central bank in the world that is totally independent. The central bank is created by an act of law in itself. But basically, central bank, because they take care of what we hold together, something called money. That money stores our value. And what makes it a currency is that it goes around in every place, taking care of all trade and exchange purposes. The man who signs that document for you is the central bank governor, and he's the only banker in town. Every other person basically is an agent banker. As a sixth-form student, I read a book written by the economist in the UK, showing the reserve board as the overhead tank, and the banks as just the taps in between. So basically, the central bank governor decides that the currency on which he has signed is not creating value, for which the people have asked him to make sure that value is ensured. He has every right to act to it. Now, that means he needs to look at price stability. Is it possible for him to do that? Look at price stability at very short, quick notices, going through appropriation, and on the evidence, based on evidence going forward, which are the countries that don't have an independent central bank? No bank is exactly fully independent, but you have to define independence in some terms. 1, how do you appoint the governor? 2, how long does he stay in office? 3, does he have control over price movements and stuff like that? And 4, does he allow to ensure that money that is being used in the system helps the growth of the real sector of the economy? That's the evidence you need to look at to determine the kind of independence every state government should have. So you have independence based on the politics, independence based on economics, independence based on goal, independence based on objectives. So you might set an interest rate, for example, or an inflation target, and ask the central bank governor to meet that. And if you set an inflation target and an election period is about to come, the government might be tempted to borrow from the central bank. But if it's an independent person, it's unlikely to allow to have that happen. He won't allow money to be thrown at issues. So, but I said those are broad guidelines. No central bank is really that independent, but he needs the independent to be able to ensure price stability in the system.
Then the question is, where do we begin to draw the line? This matter now, the National Assembly seems to be bent on, okay, you don't submit your budget for appropriation, you shouldn't be the chairman of the board of the CBN as well as the central bank governor. So where should we begin to draw that line of independence and dependence?
Well, I think the issue of central bank governor being the chairman and not be the chairman, it was rather pedestrian, because at the end of the day, he needs to be the chairman and chief executive. He's actually the only banker in the country by law.
No, but should he be the chairman of the board?
He has to be the chairman, because at the end of the day, those decisions are rather quick.
What happens in other jurisdictions?
Same thing. The chairman is also the central bank of Benanke is chairman, Mevy King is chairman. So, and these are countries that have decided that the interest rate, the price stability is depending on how well the governor comes to a decision as to how this is done. I guess the problem we have here basically is that we've had such a long period of things not being done properly, and maybe the banking system was not acting to purpose, and so we had a new governor who felt, he's also in Nigeria, he began to see some need to bring his own radical reform process in play, which must have stepped on a few toes at the end of the day. But like I said, it's not about the person, it's about the institution.
Do you think it's more of a political vendetta, so to speak, getting Lamido Sanusi, the central bank governor, cutting his wings? Because analysts as well as people have said in the past, or even still say, that Sanusi Lamido is so powerful, so we need to cut his wings.
No,
do you think it's more of a political vendetta?
No, I don't think so. Actually, like I told you, there are two game changers in town. Sanusi says the currency is issuing is being exchanged without commensurate value coming into play and goods being exchanged, and that cannot be right for the economy. So the asset classes are depreciating. The people who are in the house are saying for a long time, they have been excluded from the system. They also need to define where most of this is done. If you ask me, I think the problem we all seem to have is that so much is done on assumption. I mean, I know this and I know that it was done in South America this way, it was done in North this way, therefore we must do it here. Everything we need to do has to be, derived. It must be situated in time and space. How many people are at work? How do we get them back to work? How the currency, the money that we have, how do we make it the currency so that all the transactions that take place, value must be created? And that's a rather very complex and detailed activity to do, and I doubt very much if appropriation would be the right way to regulate the activity of that place. I don't think there's any vendetta against Sanusi. I just think that the House has not been active for 40 years. They have every right to define their space. Ultimately, as they begin to define their space, the economy is going to improve. Whether you like it or not, I don't know whether you think what they are doing is right or wrong, but they have looked at the power sector, they have looked at the pension sector, they have looked at the capital market. All of these are still oversight functions. For the first time, they begin to say, look, policy, let's look at policy, which is why they're creating a new law. At the end of the day, what I think should happen is a rapprochement so that they understand clearly how this is done, what is modern practice, which are the countries that have allowed their currency to be run in a manner that there's not too much influence on the central bank governor, and what have they done well. And those who have decided to keep the central bank governor on the apron strings of the political class, who have they not done well. So it's based on evidence. Basically, you must go forward based on evidence and ask yourself, in this period of time, what has he done, what has he not done. I've just told you now what I think the House has done in efforts. I've also told you what I think the central bank government has done in efforts. The critical issue is that nation building is a painful process. Those who disagree must come to an agreement, not because of their own selves, because of children yet unborn.
The question also is the time frame, because we're saying this is a second reading has occurred at the House of Reps concerning this, and a lot of people are saying, okay, so the lawmakers can quickly do this within a twinkle of an eye. What has happened to other bills that has been lying before the House? And why, okay, this has scaled through the second reading already.
Which is what I said basically is that there's nothing that is done by the law houses that cannot be amended. So if this house, for example, rushes the law through and the results get bad, it means we're just taking one step forward and another step backwards.
So people are saying, why the rush? Why the rush?
Well, it is their prerogative to determine what in their interest, in their view, is critical to making sure that the economy works. Of course, in everything that people do, there's always an underlying sentiment. There's always the issue of saying what is in the national interest. What we're saying basically that national interest should be informed. And what you're trying to do basically now is saying that if the national interest is saying that the governor shouldn't do this, shouldn't do that, shouldn't do that, then how would they correct it? By the way, I'm informed that even the fund that is given out has been challenged by the director of the bank and the money has not been issued. So it's not as if we are running with people who do not know exactly where they're going. The key here is basically that if you're talking about price stability and all of the functions that attend to price stability, how should the person who needs to do it be allowed to operate? It's not personal. So I don't think there's anything vendetta against them. I just think that people are not used to legislative arm, so they go there and they feel very harassed, and they should not be harassed. Basically, they should expect adversarial functions from the House and from the legislature, because they represent various opinions around the world. And in America, for example, they had two central bank systems, the first one, the second one, and now they have a devolved reserve board around the place, which means that what they see as pricing of credit or interest rates may vary from one place to the other, and the export regime and import regime may also vary differently. So monetary policy, of course, is broadening, it's changing on a good basis, and the fact that we're discussing that in this country for now is cause for joy, not unhappiness.
So some people may want to disagree with you, because at the end of the day, they'll be like, okay, probably the House of Reps do have a stance in the sense that the central bank has been challenged many times to bring your budget before the National Assembly, just like other agencies of government, just like other ministries. Same with the NNPC. So it seems as if it's the NNPC and the CBN that are guilty of that act. Central bank hasn't done that. I think in the last 3 years or so, they've been crying about that. They haven't done that. Okay, the question about the bank's bailout was brought forward in the sense that we needed to hear what you were going to do before that intervention. Do you not see this as the posture of how the central bank did that, and also the donations to the bomb victims?
Well, like I said, basically we're not talking about persons here, but if given as it may, let's discuss it in terms of the person. The first issue which you raised basically is why have they not given their accounts to the legislature? The proper thing to do is to explain to the legislature how they have met their inflation targets. And it's not necessarily to see what the reserve position of the country is.
No, but I don't even think the House is particular about inflation targets for now. They're particular about how much do you spend, because the central bank has the prerogative to set its salaries for its staff without, you know, the last time I was at the MPC meeting and the question was raised about the bomb, donation to the bomb victims, Sanusi replied that it's part of our CSR, and the board of the central bank, which he heads, which is the chairman, has agreed to it. So I don't think it's about inflation or monetary or price stability right now that the House is talking about. It's talking about the internal proceedings or the internal procedures in the central bank.
Well, like I said, basically, they have every right to ask those questions, because all of the power that we hold together is collectively held by them, which you then dispense and the executive executes. I am not certain, I don't have the detail as to the contact between the central bank and the House. But I know that in all other jurisdictions, the House has a schedule of meeting with the central bank government to brief them on how most of these things are done. Now, basically, let's not look at this as if it's a far-removed thing. Let's look at it from the point of view of history. What we're talking about here is money. Money is a store of value. Money is what means that rather than me doing trade by barter, I have a currency which holds that value. First of all, it must hold that value. Second, it must move around in such a manner so that for every trade and exchange, for every exchange, there must be some trade of services. Now, that's a complex measurement, especially as economies and asset classes have improved or done. Now, if in the view of the central bank governor, these things are not going to purpose, he has every right to react to it. And when the bank correction started, my view basically then was you have to get in all of those three functions. I mean, what is the liquidity, the base, asset base of the company? Have this been disbursed? Has there been an institution where you think that the public good has not been served and private interest has been served? And how well did the discount window work in allowing them to change assets in a manner which the central bank did not know, and therefore meant that all of the assets that they had lost value? If you ask me, I felt that was an appropriate action to take. If you ask the issue of donating to bomb victims, again, that's a very personal issue, and I think there may have been some underlying sentiments. Now,